build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Well, they gave me ball, but I can see between to a dusty yard and long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I dry my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober.
Hello everybody, welcome to Longbangers. This is episode 159. I'm Matty, joined tonight by John and Colin. As always, John, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. It's been a really good week. It's been a really good weekend. And here I am chatting to you two.
Aye,
So it's not helping you.
what more could you want? We just finished recording a Short Bangers episode that will go out Thursday with the comedian Joe Caulfield. That was quite good fun as well, something to look forward for everybody. Would you say, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to people hearing it, and also looking forward to go see Joe at the Fringe on the 5th of August.
Aye, it'd be good.
The name of our show is Here Comes Trouble.
There you go. Go and research to get tickets. Colin, how are you doing?
Good, mate. Aye, good. Just looking forward to going to my bed. But I think I say that every week now.
Aye.
I'm repeating myself a bit.
I've
Is that dementia or old age setting in?
There's fatigue.
Mental and physical fatigue. I just put my contact lines in. It's been bothering me, but the hay fever. I mentioned it last week, and so I've had my glasses on all day, and I thought, no, I want to put my glasses on for the podcast. So I put my lenses in, and my left eye's irritate me, so I'll be like twitchy face through this, like kind of try to blink and moisten my eye, or try to bring it back into focus or whatever. So if you're watching this and wondering what I'm doing, that's the rationale for it. That's why I'm making funny faces.
There's an episode of Friends where Jennifer Aniston does that, and it turns out that she's got an eye infection, or her character, Rachel Green. And Jennifer Aniston is infinitely more attractive when she does it than you.
Aye. What if I did my hair, John?
I would love to see you with a Jennifer Aniston.
Right, well,
use some of that subscription money, go to a decent hairdresser.
We shall move on very quickly. So tonight we're talking about Hibs 5-0 win over Clyde. It was Premier Sports Cup, a return of competitive football for the new season. John, you were there. Colin and I were at Colin's having a barbecue, so we've only watched the highlights. Just in the interest of a total transparency, and so that other podcasts like Down the Slope can call us part-timers, Liam. And we can't really argue this week. So we did miss the game, but John, you were there representing Longbangers.
The League Cup, though, if we're getting in a war of words here, they dismissed the League Cup last year, as one of them did, maybe Harry. It doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
So I'm just taking his advice.
Right, that's what it is. It's all good fun. Right, John, you were at the game. Give us a lowdown on what happened, and was it good or was it shit?
I thought it was excellent. I thought Hibs were superb. I know Hibs scored 5 goals easily in the first half. Could have scored more in the second half, but I think Lee Johnson recognised that the game was well and truly done by half time. So he took the opportunity to get some fresh legs on, get some game time in the squad. Clyde didn't cause Hibs any problems whatsoever. It was I'm not going to say it was a professional job, because it was more than professional. It was, if there's such a thing as professionally entertaining, it was that. So yeah, a professionally entertaining 90 minutes.
It came out on, was it Friday night? When the sort of press stuff for Lee Johnson was getting released, that work permits hadn't come through for Tavares and Yuan and Bojang, so they didn't feature. And really, the team that started, John, was only Nohan Kenny and David Marshall. Sort of different for the team that finished last season, but yet they played completely different. So was it those two players make the difference, or was there something else driving that?
So Kenny, he definitely sat in front of the defence, I thought, and he was available for a ball for the defence. So it was a way for them to play the ball forward, and he was trying to play it while he tried to advance the play a wee bit. But I thought that one of the big differences was that Jake Doyle-Hayes was playing in a bit more of an advanced position, and I hope this is the compliment that it sounds, but I actually mistook him and Ewan Henderson quite a few times during that first half because of the way that Jake Doyle-Hayes was taking the ball in and he was turning, he was looking to play that ball forward, because it was in complete contrast to the majority of last season. I think we were critical of Jake Doyle-Hayes and Joe Newell in midfield because we couldn't quite work out whether they should be playing together. Then we saw the difference when it was just one of them that was playing, but definitely there was a clear change in roles for Jake Doyle-Hayes, and that was perhaps influenced by Kenna sitting a bit deeper and allowed Jake Doyle-Hayes to go forward. David Marshall, no disrespect to him, there was just nothing for him to do apart from, I think he waved a free kick that, you know, practically hit the upper tier of the famous five. So, aye, that was him.
Aye, okay. First goal comes from Christian Doig. Colin, we've watched the goals and the highlights, so I'm going to bring in here. So the cross came in from Doig's first goal was the one at the chest in, wasn't it? Cross comes in from Melkerson. Trying to remember the order of the goal. So Melkerson actually made this run down the wing, which I thought was brilliant.
He stopped, from my perspective, he stopped the ball for going out. I think he almost did like a sort of Gareth Bale. He was off the pitch, I'm sure.
Yeah, he ran around the linesman.
He kept the ball in and ran round the linesman to come and collect it again.
And whipped it in, takes a wee deflection as the ball was going in, loops up in the air, and Doig sort of dives and chests it in. Colin, first time you've seen a dive in Chester?
Doig is bound to have done one before, you know. Like it is just like, if you're going to say what's a typical Christian Doig finish, would you go the diving chest? It probably wouldn't be a clean strike finish anyway, with it. But it's just good he's got a hat trick, because that's the goals he scores, and that's the goals we weren't scoring last year.
Yeah,
like shitty goals, like just crap, just lumbering them in for.
Scrappy, shitty goals, balls that are bouncing about the box.
I'm not going to complain about them. Like, you know what I mean? If that's what we're complaining about, then we're in a good place. So, we never scored any like that last year after he went out the team in like fucking August or whenever it was he was out the team. So, let's bring it on. I know it's only Clyde, but still confidence, and hopefully that'll be on one of his streaks till September or something, and then
hopefully till May next year.
a year long streak.
Ideally.
I think somebody said on Hibs.net that he's exceeded his total goals for last season already, and I'm not sure. I haven't fact checked that, because I can't remember if he got 2 or 3 last season, but he'll be buzzing in the back of that, because talk about Doig going in it. I think sort of reading between the lines of Lee Johnson's comments in the press, but he's talking about Doig and being settled in Edinburgh, and his partner was, I think, studying in Edinburgh or something like that. So he wasn't wanting to move. I think he's had a conversation where Hibs have maybe said we'd look to move you on, and Doig has been like, well, no, I'm under contract and I want to stay. But it must be brilliant for the manager to go, okay, well, we'll work with you, and then for him to reward him with a hat trick at the back, he'll be thinking, this is good news if we've got a striker that's scoring those sort of goals. John, what did you think of Melkerson's role? So not just his role in that goal, but how he played in the game overall.
I thought he had a really good game. I know. So I think there was a few question marks from him amongst the Hibs support towards the end of last season, because he'd kind of burst on the scene. He'd had those 2 goals against Motherwell, and everyone was kind of rubbing their hands like, fucking yes, like we've got a player here, we've got someone that can score goals finally. Especially throughout that season with the injury problems and the lack of goals that we'd had. But after the Motherwell game, it didn't really quite click for them, and there was one glaring miss that I think cost us top 6 against Dundee United.
Yeah.
But excuse me, with the benefit of the end of last season, there was a little bit of pre-season, and there's obviously been there's been a few videos of him working by himself, and he's had the pre-season over in Portugal with the Hibs team, and he's had some work at HTC. He's come in, he looks fresh, looks hungry, and like his role yesterday, so we had a conversation about him, I can't remember if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about that sort of like traditional, or the striker that everyone wants, the 18 to 22 goals a season. and I queried whether he was that player based on his build. But and I admitted at the time that it was maybe an old-fashioned view what a centre forward or that player would look like. But I thought yesterday he was. I'm going to say he was a menace. He was just. I'm not going to say that he covered every blade of grass, but if you look at his role in the first goal, so we just described it there a second ago, and then there was his goal, the pass that he took for Josh Campbell, and he's beat the player and he stuck it in the bottom left-hand corner. Like that was a little bit of a scrappy finish. So I thought it was a good ball for Campbell, but Melkerson still had a wee bit to do there. He had to beat the player, he had to get the shot away, but he's done it. And I just thought he was just a really good part of the forward line. Like, I wouldn't say that he was like the standout part of the forward line. He was just as equally valuable in the forward line as the other players were.
What do you make of his celebration, Colin? We were trying to do it in your back garden with a few drinks in us. That somersault.
I never tried that.
We pulled it off impeccably, to be fair. Unfortunately, there was no cameras on them. There were a few gaps. You just have to take our word for it. But if anything, we did it better. So we won't need to talk about celebrations. It could be somersault anyway. But so we go. Doig gets his goal. Melkerson scores like you described there, John, for the pass in for Josh Campbell. The third goal comes from Doig. This one was Jake Doyle-Hayes takes the ball through two Clyde players, slips a lovely wee pass through to Doig, and actually he finishes it fantastic. Out with Doig's 3 goals, this was by far and away his best one.
Yeah.
On that, so Jake Doyle-Hayes is the you kind of referenced him already, John, about having that bit more advanced role. What difference do you think that made to how he plays? And is that where you would see him playing for the rest of the season?
I hope so. I mean, I don't think you can look into the two halves of football and say, well, we scored 5 goals in the first half, we didn't score any goals in the second half, therefore we should play the team that started the first half in the next game or the opening game of the season or whatever. But like I say, like there was more. I think it was the player that. I think what I saw in Jake Doyle-Hayes yesterday, and I'm going to try and like caution myself a little bit because I did get a wee bit carried away after his 2 goals against Ross County. I thought, yes, like that's the player that we heard that that he described himself as in the downslope interview. But I thought yesterday we got to see a bit more of that attack-minded, forward-thinking player. And like I say, like I thought with so that goal in particular, he's turned, I think, 2 Clyde players and he's kind of drove with the ball and he slipped the ball in and it's, Doig has gone on to supply the finish. That was a player that we were missing out on last season because him and Joe Newell were both kind of sitting there like, well, who's sitting and who's going forward, and nothing really happened. So there's at least in that first half between him and Kenner, there was a clear distinction as to who was doing what, and Hibs got the benefit from it.
And then almost instantly, Colin, from centre, Hibs win the ball back for Clyde, and Gadden puts a cross in for Doig to score another sort of typical Doig goal where he takes a swipe at it, totally misses it, and then just pokes it home.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I don't know if he's dummy that. Do you know if it's on purpose? He's like, I'll sell the keeper a dummy here, get him on his arse, and then take the proper shot.
Yeah, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. All the goals he scored for us, like. There's been a couple of cracking finishes in there, like on a Aberdeen, even the second there was no bad. But the majority of them are just like the scrappiest fucking goals you'll ever see. But
was it his first goal? Was it his first goal for Hibs up at St Johnstone when he got a hat trick? You know how we'd had that bad start, Heckenberg got sacked, etc. Because I think his first goal there, he kind of fluffed the initial one and then got the rebound on that.
Right.
Like, that's the one that it reminded me of for the weekend.
That's right, spot on. It's good. I always thought with Doig in his first season with us when he was missing those chances. Do you know? Like, remember, I had all the 1-on-1s at Aberdeen, and I think we lost that game, and or drew it.
Drew. I think Porteous maybe opened the score and then we.
Aye. But we should have won it comfortably. And he'd missed an easy chance, I think, against St Mirren the week before, and folk were just slaughtering him. They were right on his case, and then he started scoring these goals that were all almost accidental. Do you know, like that kind of the fluffing his lines at the first of his three at St Johnstone. But I remember the conversation we had. Like, if he's in those positions to miss them, you only miss them for so long, and then they start going in. And he has that sort of streakiness about him where he'll hit a run and just kind of score. So
was it 17 goals that he finished that season with? Like, he's got a good number of goals for Hibs, despite apparently not being a good finisher.
Yeah.
He would have got 20. I think if the season had played out, I think he would have got 20 or more, in my opinion, because he was just in that kind of good form, wasn't he? So, the goal came for Hibs winning the back. So Lee Johnson said in his post-match interview, this is something that they focused on because it's something they can control, which I thought was interesting because I would have said when the opponent's kicking off, there's probably a moment where you've not really got much control over what happens at all because they will know what they're going to do for the centre and they're in possession of the ball, so they're probably more in control of you. But if you watch the passage of play with that in your mind, you can see how Hibs pressed and caused the mistake. And then another thing that Johnson said was most goals come, I think, from 3 passes. It's like 3 passes and a goal. And you see, I can't remember who it is that wins the ball back, but they win it, play it straight to Karen, who plays the cross in, and the third touch is the fourth touch, because it's the third and fourth at the same time, pretty much. But that's the goal. So you wonder if that's like your early evidence of the players understanding what the manager's talking about, or early evidence that the manager knows what he's talking about. What do you think?
I hope it is. I've seen that clip. I've seen it earlier on. The press or whatever, but we'll see. It's sometimes easier when you're playing against players of that standard as well. It would be the obvious thing to do, is to go and press them because they're not as good as you at football. But so it'll be interesting. But it's good to see the start of it. Hopefully, when we play somebody better or good, then we'll actually get to see it pay off there. Because I think if you're playing a lower league team, you should be doing that, and it should work. Would be but it's good we're doing it. On the other hand, I'm not trying to dismiss it. I just think, well, it is Clyde. You know what I mean? What third, fourth, with the League Two? We should be pressing them on a hot sunny day like that. They're already getting pumped. Like, they're thinking, fucking, let's just get out here. Right? If they're daft enough to play it back the way for kick-off rather than just launch it into the corner like teams normally do, then there's a good chance you've got to at least score the goals here, eh? No, there should be.
One of the things that Johnson mentioned, John, was how that can be demoralising for an opponent. And if you notice the body language of the Clyde players just after Doig tucks our away, when you talk about heads going down, you sort of almost literally see them going, like they just want the game to be over. It is like a real
exactly where they would be. Yeah.
Real psychological edge in doing that. So that it'd be interesting to see if Hibs do that more than once this season.
I mean, we talked about it. I can't remember if it was last season or the season before, but like the importance of the first goal and how often the team that scores first goes on to win, and how often Hibs had done it that season when we talked about it. And if we can start games the way that we started yesterday, that's got to be a good thing. Because they were right at it from the very first whistle, and some of the things you were talking about there, like that press and going after, like, whether it's legitimately inferior opposition in terms of like the league that they're playing or whatever. But I was curious, like, what that, like, being in control of an opponent's kickoff would look like if they don't play the ball backwards, if they don't try and retain possession. Because you know how quite often teams will play that one pass backwards and then they'll ping it out over to the byline. Like, I wonder how we try and control that situation, because you're relying on your defender winning the ball back and getting the ball down and then playing the pass. So that'll be interesting.
Bobby, I quite like the principle behind it. I found it interesting when you've got a manager talking about it. And I suppose the other thing, it's easy for a manager to say it after the event. Do you know, when it's happened, to say this was something we deliberately focused on. And then the fifth goal, John, comes for Josh Campbell. So again, another good pass for Ewan Henderson to play him in the box. We've got a midfielder in the box, which we...
Was it definitely Henderson or was it Doyle Hayes? Just because I made that mistake.
It was... So 99%
I think it's
certain Henderson that
Yeah.
plays that one. So I think Doyle Hayes plays in Doig for his second goal. But Henderson plays in Campbell. Takes a shot. It obviously the goes in off the defender. But you happy that's Josh Campbell's goal?
Oh, aye, absolutely. I thought Josh Campbell had a decent game yesterday. I know that like he was one of the ones that were kind of singled out for criticism last year, so it was good to see a strong start in a slightly different position from him. So I think maybe towards the end of last season that he'd maybe started to be played a bit further forward. I think even playing up front at one point, but I think he's maybe playing more of a sort of attacking midfielder role. I'm not going to say number 10 because I think that's going to get people making Scott Allen comparisons, but he did make that pass for Melkerson, and his goal I thought he took really well. Like he found himself in space, he's made the run. To go back to what you were saying before about Doig, about getting into those positions, he's got into that position and he's slipped it under the keeper. So it's going in, it's on target. So the way that I think that the rules work in terms of who goals are apportioned to when it comes off a defender, it's on target, it's going in. So it's definitely has a goal.
Johnson also mentioned that he'd asked the players to kind of keep the intensity for as long as they could. So he referenced it being not a pre-season game, but also a pre-season game because of the stage in the season that has come about. So acknowledging it's competitive. And he said after 55 minutes, 60 minutes, the pace of the game went slowed right down. The passes got a bit slower and the players did a bit less running. Were you disappointed, John, not to see them go for more goals after such a commanding lead at half time?
I don't think so. I mean, don't get me wrong, like it would have been nice to see Hibs score another 5 in the second half, but also like being pragmatic, just thinking about. So obviously the players that were injured went on the pitch, but I'm thinking there's no reason in the second half to overly exert yourself. So there's a game coming up on Tuesday. It's going to be a hot day on Tuesday as well. No reason to overexert themselves. It was an opportunity to be professional, get other players on the pitch. So we swapped Bashiri for McClelland. McGeady got some game time. Lewis Miller got some game time. So I'm not overly concerned about not getting any goals in the second half.
Colin, we know that Dave, who's on Quick Bang from time to time, had put a bet on and had Hibs for there to be 6 goals in the game.
Yeah.
Did you think it was good then that Hibs stopped at 5 and kind of just got it up him a wee bit?
I mean, I think that is probably more frustrating than if we had went and got 7 or 8. Is that we got 5 in the first? How early was it? 35 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Or 42 minutes as the 5th goal went in. So he was definitely. He wouldn't be thinking he was going to win there. He was thinking this is going to be 8 or 9, which you would have probably been. I would have been hoping for if we'd got to that as well. If I'd been there, I would have been expecting more goals, to be honest with you. Clyde would have been knackered. Like if we're talking like we've got players in pre-season, we've got boys that get mollycoddled, that have been in Portugal for a week. Like they should, like these boys are just coming off the back of their work, and doing it. So, we should have scored more goals in the second half, really. But maybe just didn't show the killer instinct there. Although I'm looking at the subs and they took Doig off, didn't we? And it wasn't the strikers we were bringing on because we've not got any other strikers because they've all not got work permits and that. So we did go more midfieldy than we did attacking, if you like, in the second. Based on the substitutions, not having seen a fucking minute of the game.
Hibs are definitely midfieldy. Like I've said that a while for a couple of seasons now. We love midfielders.
A bit midfieldy. There was on the topic of work permits. There was I think it was maybe the match thread on Hibs.net. There was a boy getting the club pelters for not having work permits sorted out for the players. Do you think this is a legitimate criticism or is that harsh? Colin, I'll come to you first.
I've no idea. Like, how long does it take to get a work permit now? I don't know. Like, what's the process? Like I renewed the kids' passports early in the year and I got told it would take months. It only took 6 weeks. I don't know. Unless they didn't start the process as soon as they could.
Yeah.
If they started the process as soon as they could, it's not a legitimate complaint. If they fucked about and hung about and waited, and then went, "I'll only take a week. I'll stick the form in now," then yes, it's a legitimate complaint.
But unless you have that, if do we have that information? Like, I think we're
No.
doing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what that depends on that, doesn't it? Surely when we signed them, we applied for the work permit. Must have, got to have. Like, we've signed you. Like, we need a work permit.
Aye.
Let's fucking fill the forms.
Because otherwise, you're paying.
It's not Hibs that's slowing it down. You know what I mean?
Aye. Because we had that with Melkerson as well, didn't we? Coming from Norway.
Aye.
Did
you vote for Brexit? Well, it's not Hibs' fault. It's your fault.
Aye. Brexit. All right, so we'll kind of wrap up there on the game. So, John, just anything else that you would want to kind of draw attention to from the match that we've not covered already, and then we'll go into the talking points from Twitter.
None. Nah. Just good crowd, good result. Looking forward to Tuesday.
How was the stadium looking? Because there's been a few wee tweaks to it. I noticed some chat about the fences at some of the stands being sort of differently placed. I think they were taking some seats out or some space out. Did you notice anything like that?
Nah, I'll be honest. I wasn't paying any attention to that sort of stuff. It was simple to get in. There was no bother with like barcodes or tickets or anything like that. Seats were there. Pitch was looking lush. Sun was beaming down on Easter Road. It was beautiful.
Did you try any of the catering? Because there were new caterers in.
I did not. I'm trying to shift a wee bit timber again, so I'm watching my diet. So I did not partake in a high bee pie.
Fair dues. Right. So from Twitter, and Councillor Tom McEwen, he said the players enjoyed it. A total reversal of a few months ago. Fair comment.
Totally different atmosphere about the place. I don't think that pre-season plays any part in that. It was a different atmosphere. I think there's maybe a feeling of start afresh.
Weight off the shoulders. Nice sunny day, couple of early goals. You always got to be feeling all right, yeah.
It's one of the things that we're going to be talking about in Longbangers Extra Time, which you can listen to if you're a subscriber, and we'll give details of how to subscribe at the end of the podcast. We're going to be looking at that sort of journey from everything being shit at the club and the mood about the club being shit at the end of the last season to this sort of there's almost like a kind of new wave of optimism around the club at the minute. So we're going to
on Tuesday night
until at least, but folk will have listened to this already by then, and we're all right. We can talk about it. Unless they're listening on the way, and they could go, "You fucking idiots." Jinxed it. So we will in Longbangers Extra Time be talking about some of the things that Lee Johnson in particular has done to sort of change that mood. Dave Thompson said, with Porto not being captain, does that signal he's on his way out? Knocked back a good offer with exit clauses. Is it significant that he's not captain?
Not for me, like, no. Well, it was Marshall was captain, wasn't it?
Was he was captain? Was Porteous captain for the games in Portugal, and that was the whole thing about him being mic'd up in that?
No, he wasn't.
No. Maybe it's just the fans that rate him as a leader. Maybe the club don't, because he's never been captain, has he? He was captain in the youth team, but he's never captain the first team, despite it going through McGregor, Hanlon, Stevenson. You know, it's been various people selected ahead of him to be captain. Do
leaders miss a quarter of the season through suspension?
Well, do you think so? To taking Porteous out, so specifically Porteous out the equation for a minute, right? If you're a player and you're assessing whether or not to sign a new contract or take a move elsewhere, would being offered the captaincy feature in your thoughts at all, or would you be looking at what's the best for my career? How much money am I going to earn? What league am I going to be playing in?
I'd be very surprised if he's holding out to be made captain, and that was I could see him holding out for an extra 500 a week, an extra grand a week, or whatever the negotiation is, or an extra year or a year less, maybe even on a contract, so he can get away quicker, or a release clause. But no, can I wear that wee band on my arm? Like, I cannot see that being a deal breaker.
There's maybe
why somebody's made that rumour up, and it's kind of seems to be gaining a bit of traction. Seems a bit mad.
Well, there's maybe 1% of his physical being that thinks if I'm made Hibs captain, I'll stay, just purely because he's grown up as a Hibs fan. But the other 99%, I would imagine, like most people in life, never mind footballers, they're looking for better financial security.
Yes. And what if you're the manager? And this is the other thing that I was looking at. Right, so we've got a captain for last season who's still at the club. What would it say about like your status as a team player or your status as suitability to be captain if you're saying, I'm only staying if you take the captaincy off of him and give it to me?
That's a dressing room nightmare, isn't it?
Aye, it's a cunt move, isn't it? Like it's just not a nice thing to do. You say, well, aye, he shouldn't be captain anymore, or he's a good captain, but I don't care about that. Give me the armband anyway. I just don't think it's. I think there's a rumor that's grown, like you say, Colin. It's probably grown arms and legs, but I just don't.
I think it's absolute nonsense.
I don't think the reality would reflect it, and I'd be surprised. I just think it's no very team playery thing to do to kind of go and say.
It's not a captain's move, is it?
Nah, it's no.
So I can't see it being true. And on the other hand, like, who did we have as captain? Just a boy that played in the Euros for Scotland last year, 40 odd, 50 caps for Scotland, played in England for most of his days, been a Celtic regular. Like, why? What are we trying to say? Like, he's got less experience or less a captain? I don't know. Who gives a fuck? Being a captain doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you should all be able to have some input. It's not like other sports, like where the captain's got a proper role to play. Football, you just go and toss the coin and decide which way you're shooting. Really, the captaincy.
Aye. Did we have a conversation, or was it a thread on one of the website, the fan forums that was saying that like the captain's role most of the time is like organising like collection of the fines and
it's tickets,
like the Christmas night out and stuff like
that's
that.
a bonus we get at the end of the year. Aye. Exactly.
Okay, right, we'll move on. Tony Swanson has 2 points here. So the good commitment, players were well up for it and in for every ball. Melkerson really impressed. Didn't think any player did badly yesterday. Rocky getting an unfair stick. I think he did well. And if he keeps improving, he'll be a steady defender. And the bad, pie stand was a shambles. 30 minutes to get served, missed 10 minutes of the game. And when I got to my seat, had the wrong pie. Disaster.
There's an easy answer to that one. Don't
go
to the fucking pie stand. Yeah.
I wouldn't wait to miss the game for a pie. I would go fuck it. I'll no bother. Particularly because like, they're all. Well, I say this without knowing what the offering is. I don't know what to do Hibs a disservice or whoever the new caterers are. But historically, it's been overpriced. For a pie, so you're going to say, well, the pie's not that great. The cost more than a pie should cost. And if it's going to make me miss the football, there's loads of reasons.
What the reason you're there?
Aye. So I would probably eject it before missing the football. And saying that, it's bad if you got the wrong pie because it's not like there's loads of different pies to fucking choose for. Like
because you've got allergies and all that, and like vegetarianism and all that, like vegans or whatever it is. So you could have got a meat pie.
That vegetarianism was an allergy.
it's an illness, so. But you know what I mean. It could be like the curry one might have fucking some kind of nut in it. It could be anything. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I didn't fucking buy them. That's my. So or buy them before the game because there's no as big a queue.
Aye. Right, Paul Mackay said young McClelland looked really good when he came on. Wouldn't be surprised if he was more in the first team than development squad. So John, what did you think of McClelland?
I thought he looked really, really good when he came on. I thought that it was potentially a good move from Lee Johnson to sub Rocky after a good first half and get the game time for McClelland. And McClelland, I don't know, I think it was before we started recording, I thought there was 2 instances for him. One where he intercepted the ball, and then there was another where there was a really good challenge out in the touchline where he's kind of taking the man on the ball and then come away afterwards with the ball and set up a Hibs attack. So all very positive from him.
Lucy Van Pelt said Lee Johnson's cardigan. So I didn't see his cardigan. I saw his coat that he was wearing in the post-match interview. What was his cardigan like, John?
I think, by the way, a cardigan on yesterday. I'm sure he had like sort of like grey black jeans on and maybe a black cardigan, and he had that awkward from where I was sitting, it looked to me, and bear in mind, like I was other side of the pitch in the stand, he had like I want to say like the thumbs in the pockets of his jeans, and he had that awkward kind of stance of the guy at the bar that shouldn't really be there.
Yeah.
Well, I like that stuff. Like a bit there, something like
Aye,
that.
a wee bit like that. So, no, definitely it wasn't a day for cardigans yesterday, and not being disrespectful to him either, because we've all been like, I'm still carrying a bit of timber myself, but you didn't need layers on a day like yesterday.
Definitely no.
Jeans isn't even a great decision, really.
No, I was shorts, and I wore the Hibs top to the game yesterday, and that was a bad move as well because of the synthetic fibres. You want cotton.
Jeff Ashton, he says tempo, complete reversal from last season. Might not work all the time, especially against better teams, but refreshing. Melkison looks like he's put the gym work in and it's paid off. McClelland, one for the future. A young Alan Hansen. No duds yesterday. I think we've kind of covered most of that. Ryan Lyle said the tempo, again, much better. Playing higher up the pitch is far better too. Doig looking fit. Terrible time last season with injury and COVID. Hopefully the big man found his fitness and confidence. And Whiskey Craig said movement. So we're almost at the John Collins Holy Trinity here, didn't we? Like, so Whiskey Craig movement, forward passes and finishing was great. I love Rocky, but there's work to do. Porteous and Stevenson are Rolls Royces. Keen to see what McGeady can do, and Doig needs to stay. So excited for the season. We did have another one. Gary Duffy also said Doig must stay as well. On that, are either of you of the opinion that we shouldn't keep Doig?
I queried it last season, end of last season, because he's, I don't know whether it was because he'd been ill or whether it was Achilles or a combination of the two, but I don't think he looked the fastest player to begin with. But his diminished pace was apparent when he'd come back, and I think maybe he'd come back too soon because of the lack of striking options that we had, and Colin mentioned that before. But he certainly looked hungry yesterday. I don't know if judging his pace against Clyde players is the right marker, but I'd be keen to see how he does against Falkirk and the games to come. I've given him a stay of execution in terms of whether he should leave or not, because he looked all right yesterday.
How are you, Colin?
Well, there's nobody else came in that's better than him, so I would keep him until somebody better than him comes in. Especially when he's scoring goals. I mean, don't get me wrong, we'll be back here. It'll be, well, I said September earlier, but maybe October or November, and I'll be going, his fucking coordination's out of fuck because he keeps missing the ball and all that. Whereas at the moment, they're hitting off him and they're going in. But when they start not going in, that's when I'll start doubting him again. If they start not going in.
Aye, if they.
But if he's to go on a season-long run, he'll end up with about fucking 50 goals.
Like Messi, like just one of these like ridiculous seasons.
Christian Doig Golden Boot.
It's like 2 months. Yes. There's 2 months, 2 months off, and he gets 20 goals. So if he was to actually string it together, he'd be scoring fucking hundreds.
I get the impression that this Hibs team is going to be a striker's dream. So the way that we're setting up to play and being attacked, I think it less so for the defence, because I think there'll be times where the defence gets caught out. But I think if you're a striker, you're probably rubbing your hands because of the chances you're going to get. All right, Bass 72. Probably that I've been wanting to see football like that from Hibs for a few seasons. The first half was sensational. Some excellent performances. It was one of the things that, like, my dad had bought the game on the pay-per-view, and when I got back to Mum and Dad's last night, he sort of said first time in years that they played like that, and it was like watching the Tornadoes at times, which is probably a high praise for a Hibs team. Fraser Hamilton, McClelland looks a player, needs to bulk up a bit, a few more trips to the chippy. And we've got Dave Graham, who is persevering with the Barrels nickname. Barrels is back to being amazing. So Barrels, if you don't know, is Jake Doyle Hayes. That it's no season for that nickname to stick still, is it?
No, I think we're making are we not making a bit of position on Longbangers that all previous nicknames are wiped out?
Are vetoed. Right, last one from Twitter. Andy Jeffries says, actually think the whole squad has bulked up over the summer. Stronger, fitter, better. Is that a Radiohead song? Hopefully. McClelland can read the game perfectly. A very astute move by the looks of it. Back to the initial point, there's obvious build changes to Melkerson, Henderson. I thought Cadden too. Do you think that, John? Do you think, having seen them in the flesh, that they looked fitter, happier, more productive?
Certainly happier. I think you mentioned the Clyde players before, after having conceded and the heat's gone down and what have you. That was Hibs for about 75% of their games last year.
Yeah.
But no, they certainly looked happier. Like I say, fresh start and what have you. I couldn't really comment on physical build, because I never look at players and go, "Oh, you're a bit slight," with exceptions. So you remember Jamie McCluskey, he was tiny.
Yeah,
he was legitimately tiny. But then I remember there were comments about Grant Holt when he played for Hibs as being a bit stocky or overweight or whatever. But then I mean, going to a sponsors event and I wasn't a stitch on him. He was a fit, physical boy.
Yeah.
So I try not to get drawn too much on the a player's physical attributes, because who am I to say fucking 6'5", 17.5 stone? I could do a shift and a bit of weight myself, and I think it's quite hard as well for a professional footballer, with the amount of work that they'll be putting in day to day, week to week, the amount of running that they do to try and get to do the work and get the sufficient amount of nutrients in them to be actually able to build and retain muscle.
Yeah.
Did you see some of the photos for them in Portugal? Fucking physique on them was amazing.
That's a really good point.
So I mean, there's no doubt but I don't know if that's what they were like last year or not. Portugue's tan was spot on, I know, by the way, in Portugal.
Kenzo-esque, wasn't it?
Absolutely tremendous. But it's see if they have bulked up, right? Which they probably have. They've probably been on some kind of protein thing that the club will have given them. See, when we lose a game, folk will say it slowed them down. So it's just another they are too hung up on it. They're the fit, they're no fit, they're fucking too heavy, they're too weak. You know what I mean? It's just spin it whatever you want to spin it. But I thought the photos I saw of them in Portugal, they looked fucking. I'd love to have a body like that again.
Aye. Right, two things before.
Can you see how you sent us the picture of the gnome? Could you maybe send us the picture of you looking like that?
Before. Two things just before we wrap up. So Josh Doig looks like he's away to Hellas Veronas. 3 million kind of quoted plus add-ons for whenever it gets sold on. Well, what are you thinking about that move, Colin? You good for the club, bad for the club?
Sounds like a decent fee. Maybe somebody else in, no, probably won't. I mean, obviously Stevenson's there. He's never got to let us down, but I would expect we would be looking to bring somebody in that position that can cover that, maybe that position and another or something like that. But it seems like a good move for him. But then that doesn't really matter, does it? That's no problem anymore. It's the money that's what we're wanting. So that's 2 decent transfer fees in the last 6-7 months. So you'd like to see something getting spent, I guess.
Are you, John? You happy for Doig?
I appreciate what Colin's saying about no caring about the player and just thinking about the money, and I do tend to agree with a wee bit. But I also think that when you have players that have either come through the youth squad or have found themselves progressing into the first team, because I know that he came for Hearts, I do think you want to see them going to well, I'm not going to say bigger and better, because obviously there is no bigger or better club than Hibernian Football Club. But you do want to see them. I was really happy with Liam Henderson. Don't know Liam Henderson, but the fact that he went out and he didn't go down the, League 2 in England route, and he decided that he was going to go abroad and become more cultured, let's say. I was really happy with that.
The Italians are starting to see a market here, that the English, I was going to say aren't willing, but obviously Liverpool have just bought the laddie for Aberdeen. But in the main, the English clubs don't rate up here.
Yeah.
So but the Italians clearly do, because that's Hickey, Henderson and Doig.
Ferguson at Aberdeen's just gone as well, hasn't he?
There's
To
has he
Bologna.
gone? I knew there was a
Yeah,
rumour,
I think
right,
he's
okay.
he's due to be announced tomorrow, I think.
Where's he rumoured to be going to?
Bologna.
Bologna. Ah, okay. So that can only be good for. I'd like to think that can only be good for Hibs. I'm not going to say Scottish football because I don't care about anyone else. But maybe there's clubs that are, like Colin says, going to start looking at Hibs and some of the products they used to. Maybe Ryan Porteous, for argument's sake, he's not going to go to a Millwall and he ends up going to I don't know, Venezia.
Yeah.
Or AC Milan. He's the fucking Dalkey at Maldini.
Only if they
Milan.
make him captain.
Only. Predictions for Tuesday night, so we're waiting for Falkirk. Colin, you got a score
will.
prediction?
3-0.
John?
I'm going to go 5-0 again.
Good.
I say again, I'm hoping it's 5-0. I never predicted that we would beat Clyde 5-0.
I did yesterday. Matthew's laddie asked me, what's the score? This is at 5-3, 5-0. I didn't put any money on it.
Did you see the match thread on Hibs.net? It's the second post on it. Boy says Doig hat trick. Teams hadn't been announced yet, didn't think, or maybe they've just been announced. It was like one of the first posts on it. Doig hat trick, so he called it. Okay, that's all we've got for this week's Longbangers. Good luck to Josh Doig if it does indeed go as expected. And good luck to the team on Tuesday. We will be back for subscribers, depending again which order they listen to it. Longbangers Extra Time will be out shortly after this one. You can get that extra content for £3 a month. HTTPS longbangers.hubwave.net. Easy enough to sign up. If you get stuck, give us a wee shout on Twitter and we can talk you through it. Know that you'll need it. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink water, no.